Seoul never truly sleeps. But at 3 in the morning, the city takes a breath. That's when Akuna Amobi pushed her cleaning cart through the marble lobby of Haearium Industries, one of the tallest buildings in Gangnam. She'd been working here for 8 months. 8 months of scrubbing toilets, emptying trash bins, and being invisible to the people who worked in daylight. Invisible. That's what she was in this country. A black single mother from Nigeria, struggling to survive in a place that had never wanted her. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, a man was watching her. Not the security guard, who barely glanced up from his phone. Not her supervisor, who only spoke to her to criticize. This man was dressed like a janitor. Blue uniform, cleaning cart, mop in hand. But he didn't move like a janitor. He stood too straight, watched too carefully. And when Akuna passed him in the hallway, she caught the scent of cologne that cost more than her monthly rent. She'd seen him before, always on the 7th floor, always working when she worked, always watching. Akuna didn't know who he was. She didn't know that his real name was Haearium Danwoo, the billionaire CEO who owned the building. She didn't know he'd been living undercover as a janitor for 3 months, hunting for the person who killed the woman he loved. She didn't know that the simple silver necklace she wore every day, a necklace she'd bought at a street market for 20,000 won, looked exactly like the one buried with his dead fiancée. And she definitely didn't know that in 2 weeks, that necklace would save her life. Or that the man watching her would be the reason she needed saving in the first place. This is where their story begins. Not with love, not with trust, but with a lie that would unravel everything. Chapter 1. Akuna Amobi hated Mondays. Not because of the work. Cleaning was cleaning, and she'd made peace with that years ago. She hated Mondays because that's when Manager Sujin did his inspections. And Manager Sujin hated her. "Miss Amobi," he said, standing in the middle of the 7th floor hallway with his clipboard, his face twisted like he'd smelled something rotten. "This trash bin still has coffee stains inside." Akuna looked at the bin. It was spotless. "Where?" she asked in Korean, keeping her voice carefully neutral. He pointed at a microscopic mark on the rim. "There. This is unacceptable." It was a water spot, not even a stain, but Akuna had learned not to argue. "I'll clean it again," she said. "See that you do, and the windows on the east side need to be redone. I can see streaks." There were no streaks. She'd cleaned those windows twice already, but again, arguing was pointless. "Yes, Manager Sujin." He made a mark on his clipboard and walked away, his shoes clicking against the marble floor. Akuna waited until he turned the corner. Then she muttered in Igbo, "May your buttocks grow boils." I don't know what you just said, but I felt that energy. Akuna jumped and spun around. Mrs. Raon, the oldest member of the cleaning crew, was standing there with her mop, grinning. "You scared me," Akuna said, hand on her chest. Sorry. Mrs. Raon laughed. "But seriously, what did you say?" "Nothing nice." "Good. That man deserves it. He treats you worse than anyone else here." "I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be." Mrs. Rayon shook her head. 8 months you've been here, and he still looks for reasons to write you up. Akuna shrugged. She dealt with worse. Being a black woman in Seoul meant developing thick skin. The stares on the subway. The women who clutched their purses tighter when she walked past. The landlords who suddenly had no vacancies the moment they saw her face. Manager Sujin was just another drop in a knee ocean of casual racism she'd learned to navigate. Anyway, Mrs. Rayon said, changing the subject. Did you hear? We're getting a new person today. Another cleaner. Yeah. Management finally approved the request. We've been short-staffed for months. Please tell me it's someone who actually knows how to work, Akuna said. I'm tired of training people who quit after 2 weeks. I don't know anything about him, just that he starts today. Him. Yeah, a man. First one on our crew in a year. Akuna groaned. Great. So I'll probably end up doing his work too. Mrs. Rowan laughed. So negative. Maybe he'll be good. Or maybe he'll be useless, and I'll have to clean up after him while doing my own work. We'll see. They went back to work. The new guy showed up an hour later. Akuna was restocking toilet paper in the 7th floor bathrooms when manager Sujin's voice echoed down the hallway. Miss Amobi, come here. She sighed, put down the supplies, and walked out. Manager Sujin was standing near the elevators with a man in a brand new cleaning uniform. The new guy was tall, Korean, maybe mid-30s. He had the kind of face that would be handsome if he smiled, but right now he just looked awkward, like he'd never held a mop in his life. This is Lee Bitgaram, manager Sujin said, not even looking at Akuna. He's starting today. You'll be training him. Akuna blinked. Me? Yes. Is that a problem? Of course it was a problem. She already had a full floor to clean by herself. But saying that would just give Sujin another reason to write her up. No, sir, she said. Good. Show him the basics. He's assigned to the 7th floor with you. Manager Sujin turned to the new guy. Work hard. Listen to her. Don't embarrass me. Then he walked away. Akuna and the new janitor stood there in awkward silence. She looked him up and down. Expensive watch, badly hidden under his sleeve. Hands that had clearly never done manual labor. Posture too straight for someone who was supposed to spend hours bent over cleaning floors. And that cologne. Why did he smell like he'd just walked out of a luxury department store? So, she said in Korean, have you ever cleaned before? Yes. He said it like a question. You don't sound sure. I mean, I've cleaned. At home. Normal cleaning. Akuna closed her eyes and counted to 5. Of course. Another privileged person who thought cleaning was easy and took the job because they needed quick money. He'd probably quit within a week. Okay, she said. Let me be clear. I have a whole floor to clean in 6 hours. I don't have time to babysit. So pay attention, learn fast, and don't slow me down. Understood. Good. Follow me. She started with the basics. How to properly mop a floor. How to clean windows without leaving streaks. How to restock supplies efficiently. Lee Bitgaram nodded along, taking mental notes. But Akuna could tell he was struggling. He held the mop wrong. Too tight. Like he was strangling it. He used too much cleaning solution on the windows. And when she asked him to empty a trash bin, he looked at it like it might bite him. Are you seriously afraid of garbage? Akuna asked. No. I wasn't expecting it to smell this bad. It's trash. What did you expect? Perfume? He didn't answer. Akuna shook her head. How did you even get this job? I applied. That's not what I meant. I mean, you clearly have no experience. Did you lie on your application? No. Then how? I needed a job. They hired me. That's all. There was something in his voice. Something defensive. Akuna let it go. Not her business, anyway. Fine. Just try to keep up. By hour 3, Akuna regretted everything. Lee Bitgarum was slow, painfully slow. He cleaned one window in the time it took her to clean 5. He had to redo the same section of floor twice because he kept missing spots. And he asked questions, so many questions. Why do we use this cleaner instead of that one? Does it matter what order we clean the rooms in? Should the mop water be hot or cold? Akuna wanted to scream. Look, she finally said. I'm going to clean the east wing. You clean the west wing. We'll meet in the middle. Think you can handle that? Yeah, I can handle it. Good. She left him with a cart full of supplies and went to do her section. 30 minutes later, she came back to check on him. He'd barely finished one office. One. And he'd somehow managed to knock over a trash bin, spilling papers everywhere. He was on his knees, picking them up, looking completely lost. Akuna stood in the doorway, watching him. This man was going to get her in trouble with manager Sujin. She could already hear it. Miss Amobi, why is your trainee so slow? This reflects poorly on you. Need help? She asked, trying to keep the irritation out of her voice. He looked up. I'm sorry. I don't know how this happened. You probably bumped it with the cart. Yeah, probably. She knelt down and helped him pick up the papers. Their hands brushed accidentally. His fingers were soft, uncalloused. Definitely not the hands of someone who'd done physical labor. You really haven't done this before, have you? She said quietly. He hesitated, then shook his head. No. Then why take this job? I needed a change, a fresh start. From what? He didn't answer. Akuna studied his face. There was something sad in his eyes, something heavy, like he was carrying a weight he couldn't put down. Against her better judgment, she felt a flicker of sympathy. Look, she said, I'm not trying to be mean. I just don't have time to do both our jobs. So if you're serious about this, you need to learn fast. Okay? He nodded. I'll do better. I promise. Oh, good. They finished picking up the papers in silence. By the end of the shift, Lee Bitgarum had improved. Not by much, but enough that Akuna didn't want to strangle him. As they were putting away their equipment, he turned to her. Thank you, he said. For what? For being patient. I know I slowed you down today. You did, but everyone's slow on their first day. Still, I appreciate it. Akuna shrugged. Just don't make me regret training you. He smiled. Just a small one. And for a second, Akuna thought, okay, maybe he's not completely useless. Then she remembered she had to be back here in 14 hours to do it all over again. See you tomorrow, she said. See you tomorrow. She grabbed her bag and headed for the bus stop. Behind her, Lee Bitgarum, who was actually Haoriam Danwoo, CEO and billionaire, watched her go. He'd survived day 1. Barely. But he'd learned something important. Akuna Amobi was sharp, tough, and didn't suffer fools. He'd have to be better. And somewhere in this building was the person who'd killed Hatesal, his fiancée. And he wasn't leaving until he found out who. Chapter 2. Akuna got home at 7 in the morning. Her apartment was small. A single room with a yacht, tiny bathroom and a kitchen that was more like a corner with a stove. But it was clean. And it was hers. And after 5 years in Seoul, that felt like a victory. The door to her neighbor's apartment opened before she could even get her key in the lock. Mrs. Noyul poked her head out, smiling. Ah, you're back. Somnazu was an angel, as always. Thank you so much, Mrs. Noel. I don't know what I'd do without you. Nonsense. That child is a joy. We made pancakes and she told me all about the butterflies she saw at daycare. Akuna's chest warmed. She loves butterflies. I know. She made me promise to take her to the park this weekend to find more. Mrs. Noyul stepped aside as a small figure came running out. Mama! Somnazu crashed into Akuna's legs, hugging her tight. She was 2.5 years old, brown skin, big curious eyes, and hair pulled into 2 puffballs with bright yellow beads that clicked when she moved. Akuna's whole world. Hey baby, Akuna said, scooping her up. Were you good for Mrs. Noyul? So good. I ate all my vegetables. All of them? Well, most of them. The carrots were too crunchy. Akuna laughed. We'll work on that. Mrs. Noyul handed over Somnazu's small backpack. She's already had breakfast, so you just need to get her to daycare by 9. You're a lifesaver. Happy to help. Now go get some rest. You look exhausted. Akuna thanked her again and carried Somnazu inside. The morning routine was always the same. Get Somnazu dressed. Pack her lunch. Make sure she had her favorite stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, because she refused to go anywhere without him. Mama, why do you work at night? Somnazu asked while Akuna braided her hair. Because that's when they need cleaners, baby. But I miss you. Akuna's hands paused. I miss you too. Can't you work when the sun is awake? I wish I could, but this job pays better than the daytime ones. Somnazu didn't understand economics. She was 2, but she nodded like she did. Okay, but when I'm big, I'm going to get a job that pays lots of money. Then you can stay home and sleep when it's dark. Akuna's throat tightened. That's very sweet, baby. And I'll buy you a big house with a garden and butterflies. That sounds perfect. She finished the braids and kissed Somnazu's forehead. Come on, let's get you to daycare. Little Star's daycare was a 20-minute bus ride away. It wasn't fancy. The building was old, the playground equipment was rusty, and the paint was peeling. But the teachers were kind. The kids were safe. And Akuna could afford it. Barely. Even with her salary from Haereum Industries, money was tight. Rent, food, utilities, daycare, bus fare. It all added up. She was one emergency away from disaster. One sick day, one unexpected expense, one screw-up at work that got her fired. It kept her up at night. But she didn't let Somnazu see that fear. Okay, baby, Akuna said as they reached the daycare entrance. You're going to have so much fun today. Will you pick me up? Mrs. Noyul will pick you up. I'll see you tonight before bed, okay? Okay. Somnazu hugged Mr. Hoppy tighter. Love you, Mama. Love you more. Akuna watched until Somnazu disappeared inside, waving the whole time. Then she took the bus back home, climbed into bed, and tried to sleep. But her mind wouldn't stop. The new janitor, Lee Bitgaram. Something about him didn't add up. The way he moved, the way he spoke, that expensive watch he thought he'd hidden, and that cologne. Who wore designer cologne to clean toilets? Akuna turned over, punching her pillow into a better shape. It didn't matter. He'd probably quit in a week anyway. Most people did. She closed her eyes and forced herself to sleep. That evening, Akuna picked Somnazu up from Mrs. Noyul's apartment. How was daycare? She asked. Good. We painted, and I made you a picture. Somnazu pulled out a crumpled piece of paper covered in colourful blobs. It's beautiful, Akuna said, even though she couldn't tell what it was supposed to be. What is it? It's you and me and Mr. Hoppy in a garden with butterflies. I love it. We'll put it on the fridge. They spent the evening together. Dinner, rice and vegetables, because that's what Akuna could afford. Bath time. Somnazu insisted on bringing Mr. Hoppy into the tub, even though he wasn't supposed to get wet. Story time. The same book about a butterfly they'd read 100 times. Again, Somnazu demanded when Akuna finished. Baby, it's bedtime. One more time, please, Mama. Akuna was exhausted. Her shift started in 3 hours, and she needed to sleep. But looking at Somnazu's hopeful face, she couldn't say no. Okay, one more time. Somnazu squealed with delight and snuggled closer. Akuna read the book again, her voice soft and steady. By the end, Somnazu was asleep, Mr. Hoppy tucked under her arm. Akuna carefully moved her to the small mattress they shared, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and kissed her forehead. Sweet dreams, my love. Then she got ready for work. Chapter 3. Lee Bitgaram arrived at work that evening, determined to improve. He'd spent the entire day watching cleaning videos on YouTube, taking notes like he was preparing for a business presentation. When he got to the 7th floor, Akuna was already there with Mrs. Rahn, both of them going over the cleaning schedule. Evening, he said. Akuna looked up. You're early. I wanted to be prepared. Mrs. Rayon laughed. He's so polite. Not like the last guy we had. That one didn't even say hello. Don't encourage him, Akuna said, but there was less edge in her voice than yesterday. Come on, Bitgaram. Tonight you're doing the bathrooms by yourself. By myself. You need to learn. I'll check on you in an hour. Okay. She started walking toward the East Wing offices, and that's when he saw it. The necklace. It was tucked under her collar, but as she turned, it shifted into view. Silver chain, delicate, and a pendant. Danwoo's heart stopped. Even from several feet away, he could see the shape clearly. A crescent moon, wrapped in vines. Exactly like the necklace he'd given Hyetsal. The custom-made necklace that should be buried with her. His breath caught in his throat. No, it couldn't be. He must be seeing things. Grief making him imagine connections that weren't there. But as Akuna moved under the hallway light, the pendant caught the brightness. And Danwoo saw every detail. The crescent moon at that specific angle. The vines wrapping in that exact pattern. It was identical. Completely identical. His chest tightened. How? How was that possible? Hey? Mrs. Rayon's voice broke through his thoughts. Are you okay? You look pale. He blinked. I'm fine. Just tired. Well, don't work too hard on your second day. Pace yourself. Right. Thank you. He grabbed his cleaning cart and headed toward the bathrooms, his mind racing. That necklace. Hyetsal's necklace. Around Akuna Amobi's neck. Danwoo tried to focus on cleaning, but his hands were shaking. He kept seeing that pendant, that unmistakable design. There were only a few explanations. Option 1. It was a coincidence. A similar necklace. But no, he'd had that necklace custom designed. Spent hours with the jeweler, getting every detail perfect. The jeweler had assured him it was one of a kind. Option 2. Someone had copied the design. But who and why? Only he and Hyetsal knew what it looked like. Option 3. It was Hyetsal's actual necklace, which meant Akuna had somehow gotten it. But how? Danwoo's mind went to dark places. Was Akuna involved in Hyetsal's death? Had she been there? Had she taken the necklace? No. That didn't make sense. Akuna had been working at Haorium Industries for 8 months. long before Hyetsal died. But maybe she knew the person who killed her. Maybe she'd bought it from them. Or maybe... Stop. He was jumping to conclusions without evidence. He needed to think clearly. What did he actually know? Hyetsal was dead. Her necklace had disappeared. Akuna was wearing what looked like an identical necklace. That was it. Everything else was speculation. He needed more information. Needed to find out where Akuna got that necklace. But he couldn't just ask her directly. That would raise too many questions. He needed to get closer to her first. Earn her trust. Make her comfortable enough to talk to him. An hour later, Akuna came to inspect the bathrooms. She walked through slowly, checking every surface. Danwoo tried not to stare at the necklace, but it was difficult. Now that he'd seen it clearly, he couldn't unsee it. Not bad, Akuna said finally. Much better than yesterday. Thank you. The mirrors still have some streaks, but overall, this is acceptable. She started to leave. Akuna, he said. She turned back. What? Say something normal. Something that won't make her suspicious. I just wanted to thank you for being patient with me. I'm not patient. But her expression softened slightly. You're doing better though. Keep it up. I will. She nodded and walked away. Danwoo watched her go, his eyes fixed on that silver chain around her neck. He was going to find out the truth, no matter what it took. The rest of the shift, Danwoo paid attention to everything, not just Akuna, but the entire floor. He'd been so focused on his own grief and investigation that he hadn't really looked at what was happening around him. Now he did, and what he saw made him angry. Around 11 p.m., Manager Sujin appeared for his nightly inspection. The man moved through the floor like he owned it, clipboard in hand, looking for problems. He found Mrs. Rayon restocking paper towels in the break room. Is this how you stock supplies? Manager Sujin's voice was sharp with contempt. Mrs. Rayon bowed quickly. I'm sorry, sir. Is something wrong? The towels are uneven, and you've left the supply closet door open. I was just about to close it. Excuses. Always excuses with you people. He made a mark on his clipboard. This is going in your file. Please, sir. I've been here for 20 years. Then you should know better by now. He walked away, leaving Mrs. Rayon standing there, with her head bowed. Shame on her face. Danwoo felt his jaw clench. He wanted to say something, wanted to step in, but he couldn't. Not without blowing his cover. Only 20 minutes later, Manager Sujin found Akuna cleaning one of the executive offices. Miss Amobi, she looked up. Yes, Manager Sujin. This desk still has dust on it. Akuna walked over to check. Where? He pointed at a spot that looked completely clean to Danwoo, who was mopping nearby. There. Do you not see it? I cleaned that desk twice. Are you arguing with me? No, sir. I'm just saying... Just saying what? That I'm wrong. His voice rose. Maybe if you spent less time talking and more time working, you'd do your job properly. Akuna's hands clenched into fists, but she kept her voice level. I'll clean it again. See that you do, and next time, pay attention the first time. He walked away. Akuna stood there, breathing hard, clearly trying to control her anger. Danwoo abandoned his mop and walked over. Are you okay? I'm fine. He's wrong, you know. That desk was clean. I know it was clean, but it doesn't matter what I know. She grabbed her cleaning cloth. He's the manager. He can say whatever he wants. That's not right. Welcome to reality. She started wiping down the already clean desk. This is how it works. People like him have power. People like us don't. It shouldn't be like that. She looked at him like he was naive. But it is. And getting angry about it doesn't change anything. You just do your job, keep your head down, and hope you don't get fired. She went back to work. Danwoo stood there, watching her. This was his company. He'd built Haereum Industries from nothing. Worked 18 hours, days. Sacrificed everything. And he'd thought he was building something good. But he'd been so far removed from the ground level that he'd never seen this. Never saw how people like manager Sujin treated the staff. Never saw how people like Akuna had to swallow their pride just to keep their jobs. He'd been in his ivory tower while his employees suffered. The realization hit him like a punch. When this was over, when he found out what happened to Hyattsal, he was going to fix this. Every single thing that was broken, starting with manager Sujin. At midnight, they took their break. Akuna sat in the cafeteria with her container of rice and vegetables. Danwoo sat across from her with nothing. "You didn't bring food again?" she asked. "I forgot." She sighed and pushed half her container toward him. "Here." "I can't. Just take it. I can't have you passing out and making more work for me." He accepted it gratefully. "Thank you." They ate in silence. Danwoo kept glancing at the necklace, trying not to be obvious. Finally, Akuna noticed. "What?" "Nothing. You keep looking at me weird." "I'm not." "Yes, you are." She put down her chopsticks. "What is it?" He couldn't help himself. "That necklace. It's pretty." Her hand immediately went to it, fingers touching the pendant protectively. "Thanks. Have you had it long?" "Why do you want to know?" "Just curious." She studied him suspiciously. "A few weeks. I bought it at a market. It looks expensive." "It wasn't. It was cheap." She tucked the necklace back under her shirt. "Why are you so interested in my jewelry?" "I'm not. I was just making conversation." "Well, don't. Eat your food." She went back to eating, clearly done with the conversation. Danwoo didn't push, but now he knew. She'd bought it recently, at a market, which meant someone had sold it to her, which meant there was a trail to follow, but not tonight. Tonight, he needed to focus on earning her trust. The investigation could wait. Chapter 4. By the end of the week, Danwoo had made a decision. He needed to know more about Akuna Amobi. Not because he cared about her personally, but because she was wearing his dead fiancé's necklace, and he needed to know how she got it. Every night, he watched that silver chain around her neck, that crescent moon pendant, the necklace that should be buried with Hyattsal. There were only a few explanations for how Akuna could have it. She stole it herself. She bought it from whoever stole it. She knew the person who killed Hyattsal, or she was somehow connected to Hyattsal in a way Danwoo didn't know about yet. Whatever the truth was, he needed answers. And the only way to get them was to learn everything about Akuna's life. Where she lived, who she associated with, what she did when she wasn't at work. So on Friday night, when the shift ended at 6 a.m., Danwoo made his move. "See you Monday," Akuna said to Mrs. Rowan as she grabbed her bag. "Have a good weekend." Danwoo waited exactly 3 minutes after Akuna left. Then he followed. He kept his distance, staying far enough back that she wouldn't notice him. She walked to the bus stop and waited. Danwoo crossed to the other side of the street, pretending to check his phone while watching her from the corner of his eye. The bus arrived. She got on. He ran to his car and followed the bus. He took the route toward Itaewon, stopping every few blocks to let passengers on and off. Danwoo stayed 2 cars behind, careful not to get too close. After 20 minutes, Akuna got off near a rundown apartment building, Building 47, just like his background check had said. Danwoo parked a block away and watched. Akuna didn't go straight to her apartment. Instead, she walked to the building next door and knocked on a first-floor unit. An elderly Korean woman opened the door. They spoke for a moment, too far away for Danwoo to hear. Then something completely unexpected happened. A small child ran out of the apartment. A little girl, maybe 2 or 3 years old. Brown skin, hair in 2 puffballs, with colourful beads that clicked when she moved. She crashed into Akuna's legs, hugging her. "Mama!" Danwoo froze. Akuna had a daughter. The background check had mentioned a child, but it had been buried in pages of other information. He'd glossed over it, focused on financial records and work history. Now, seeing the child in person, everything shifted. Akuna wasn't just a suspect. She was a mother, which made this more complicated. Danwoo watched as Akuna scooped up the little girl, holding her close. Her whole face changed. The hard edges softened, the exhaustion replaced by something that looked like relief. She smiled. Really smiled. It was the first time Danwoo had seen her look genuinely happy. The elderly woman handed Akuna a small backpack, and they spoke for another minute. Then Akuna carried her daughter toward her own building and disappeared inside. Danwoo sat in his car, processing. A child changed everything. If Akuna was involved in Hyatsal's death, if she'd stolen that necklace or bought it knowingly, would she really wear it openly while raising a daughter? That seemed reckless. Stupid even. Unless she had no idea what the necklace really was. Unless she'd bought it innocently, not knowing where it came from. Danwoo pulled out his phone and texted his head of security. "I need more detailed information on Akuna Amobi. Specifically, all purchases made in the last 3 months, credit card records, cash withdrawals, anything that shows where she spends money. Also, I need to know her daily routine. Where does the child go during the day? Who watches her at night? Everything." The response came quickly. "Understood. We'll have it by tomorrow." Danwoo put his phone away and continued watching the building. He should leave. He'd gotten what he came for. Confirmation of where she lived. Discovery of the child. But something made him stay. Around 8 a.m., Akuna came back outside with her daughter. The little girl was dressed in bright yellow overalls, a backpack shaped like a rabbit on her back. They held hands as they walked to the bus stop. Danwoo followed again. The bus took them to a small daycare center, Little Stars Daycare. Akuna walked her daughter inside, stayed for a few minutes, then came back out alone. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Danwoo watched her take the bus back toward her apartment, and despite himself, despite the fact that she was a suspect in his investigation, he felt something uncomfortable. Pity. Akuna worked all night. Then, instead of sleeping, she picked up her daughter, took her to daycare, and only then went home to rest. How many hours of sleep was she getting? 4? 5 at most. And she did this 5 days a week, just to survive, just to keep her daughter fed and cared for. Danwoo shook his head, pushing the feeling away. He couldn't afford to feel sorry for her. She had Seoul's necklace. That made her part of this, whether she knew it or not. And he needed to find out which. Monday night, Danwoo came to work with a new plan. He needed to get closer to Akuna. Not just physically, but personally. He needed her to trust him enough to tell him things, like where she'd bought that necklace. The opportunity came during their midnight break. Akuna was eating her usual rice and kimchi when her phone rang. She answered immediately, her face changing. What? Is she okay? Danwoo watched, noticing how her hand gripped the phone tighter. Can you calm her down? I can't leave work right now. A pause. Okay, thank you. Tell her I'll call her when my break is over. She hung up, stress written all over her face. Everything okay? Danwoo asked, even though he didn't particularly care. He just needed to seem friendly. Akuna rubbed her temples. My daughter. She woke up from a nightmare. The neighbor is with her, but she's crying for me. That's hard. It's fine. She'll calm down. But Akuna didn't look fine. She looked torn between work and wanting to be there for her child. You should call her, Danwoo said. Manager Sujin doesn't allow personal calls during breaks. Manager Sujin isn't here. I won't tell anyone. Akuna looked at him, surprised. You sure? Yeah, go ahead. She hesitated, then stepped into the hallway to make the call. Danwoo stayed where he was, but he could hear her voice through the door. Soft, gentle, completely different from her usual sharp tone. Hey baby, Mama heard you had a bad dream. Do you want to tell me about it? A pause. Monsters aren't real, remember? And you have Mr. Hoppy to protect you. Another pause. I love you too, sweetheart. Now close your eyes and think about something happy. Think about butterflies. Yellow butterflies in a big garden. When she came back, her eyes were slightly red. Thank you, she said quietly, for letting me do that. No problem. She sat back, down, and continued eating. But she looked distracted, vulnerable. This was his chance. How old is your daughter? Danwoo asked, keeping his tone casual. 2.5. That's a good age, full of energy. Too much energy sometimes. A small smile crossed Akuna's face. She never stops talking. What's her name? Samnazu. That's pretty. It means princess, in Arabic. Akuna picked at her food. Her father chose it. Before he left, Danwoo filed that information away. Single mother. Father abandoned them. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off without him. She looked at Danwoo. You said you lost someone. Was it recent? He nodded. 2 months ago. I'm sorry. Me too. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Danwoo made his move. That's a nice necklace you're wearing. Akuna's hand immediately went to it. Her expression shifted, guarded again. Thanks. Have you had it long? A few weeks. Why? Just curious. It looks well made. It was cheap. I got it at a market. This was it. The information he needed. Which market? I've been meaning to buy something for my sister. Maybe I'll check it out. Akuna looked at him suspiciously. Why are you so interested in my necklace? I'm not. I just thought it looked nice, and you said it was cheap. Good deals are hard to find. She studied him for another moment, clearly not entirely convinced. But then she said, Dongdaemun Market. There's a woman who sells accessories near the east entrance. Grey hair, maybe 60 years old. She had a whole table of jewelry. Dongdaemun Market. East entrance. Older woman, Dan-woo committed it to memory. Thanks, I'll check it out. It's just cheap stuff. Don't expect anything fancy. Cheap is perfect for my budget. Akuna nodded and went back to eating. She had no idea she'd just given him the lead he'd been searching for. As soon as the shift ended, Dan-woo went straight to his car and called his head of security. Dongdaemun Market, East Entrance. There's a woman, approximately 60 years old, grey hair, sells accessories. I need you to find her. Today. What do you need from her, sir? Information. I need to know where she gets her merchandise. Specifically, I need to trace a silver necklace with a crescent moon pendant. Find out who sold it to her and when. Understood. We'll locate her immediately. Dan-woo hung up and sat back in his seat. Finally. A real lead. If he could trace that necklace back to whoever sold it, he'd find out who had access to Hatesel's body after she died. And that person would lead him to her killer. 2 days later, his security team called with an update. We found the vendor. Her name is Park Sun-hee. She's been selling at Dongdaemun for 15 years. We approached her carefully, said we were interested in buying jewelry wholesale. And she buys most of her inventory from estate sales and pawn shops. But about a month ago, she found a bag of jewelry on the street near Gangnam. Someone must have dropped it. She added the pieces to her inventory and has been selling them. Where exactly did she find it? 3 blocks from Min Hatesol's apartment building. Dan-woo's blood ran cold. 3 blocks from Hatesol's apartment. Someone had stolen the necklace from her body, then dropped it, or thrown it away, near her apartment. Did she give you the exact location? Yes. We're sending you the coordinates now. Good. I want a team there tonight. Search the area. Look for anything else that might have been in that bag. Clothing, personal items, anything. Understood. Dan-woo hung up and stared out the window. The pieces were coming together. Hatesil had been killed. Her necklace had been stolen. The killer had dumped it near her apartment. A street vendor had found it and sold it to Akuna, which meant Akuna was innocent. She had no connection to Hatesil's death. She'd just bought a necklace at a market, completely unaware of where it came from. Dan-woo should have felt relieved. But instead, he felt something else. Guilt. He'd been investigating Akuna like she was a criminal. Following her, watching her, lying to her. When all along, she was just a woman trying to survive. He pushed the guilt away. He couldn't afford emotions right now. He still needed to find Hatesel's killer. And now he had a location to search. 3 blocks from her apartment. Whatever else the killer had thrown away might still be there. And that evidence would lead him to the truth. That night at work, Dan-woo acted normal. He cleaned. He followed Akuna's instructions. He made small talk. But his mind was elsewhere. At the end of the shift, as they were putting away their equipment, Akuna said something that caught him off guard. You've been quiet tonight. Just tired? You're always tired lately. She looked at him. Are you okay? The question surprised him. Akuna rarely asked personal questions. I'm fine, he said. You don't seem fine. I'm just dealing with some things. She nodded, like she understood. The person you lost, you're still grieving. Yeah. It gets easier, not better, just easier. How do you know? Because I've lost people too. She picked up her bag. Grief doesn't go away. You just learn to carry it. She walked toward the exit. Akuna, Danwoo called. She turned back. Thank you for the advice. Don't thank me. Just take care of yourself. Then she left. Danwoo stood there, watching her go. And for the first time since starting this investigation, he wondered if he was doing the right thing. Lying to her. Using her. Pretending to be someone he wasn't. All to find a killer. But what happened when the truth came out? When Akuna found out who he really was? When she realized he'd been using her this whole time? He pushed the thought away. He'd deal with that when the time came. Right now, he had a location to search. And a killer to find. Chapter 5. The call from Danwoo's security team came at 4 p.m., 6 hours before his shift started. Sir, we searched the area near Miss Min's apartment, 3 blocks east, in an alley behind a convenience store. What did you find? A drainage grate. Someone tried to dispose of items by pushing them through the grate, but some got caught. We found a scarf. Matches one Miss Min owned according to photos. Also an earring and a hair clip. Danwoo's pulse quickened. Did you recover them? Yes. We've sent everything to our private lab for analysis. DNA, fingerprints, anything that might identify who handled these items after Miss Min's death. How long for results? 48 hours. Make it 24. This is priority 1. Understood, sir. Danwoo hung up and stared out the window of his penthouse. Finally, real evidence. Someone had killed Haetsal, stolen her belongings, and tried to dispose of them in a drainage grate. But they'd been sloppy, left evidence behind. And now Danwoo was going to use that evidence to destroy them. He arrived at work that evening at 9 p.m. as usual. The 7th floor was quiet. Most of the cleaning staff hadn't arrived yet, except Akuna. She was already there, restocking supplies in the closet. But something was wrong. Her hands were shaking. She kept checking her phone. And when she bent down to pick up a box of trash bags, she moved slowly, like every motion took enormous effort. You're here early, Danwoo said. She jumped, nearly dropping the box. Don't sneak up on me like that. Sorry. Are you okay? You look... I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. Her eyes were red. Her face was drawn. And when she set down the box, her hands trembled. Akuna. Her phone rang. She answered immediately, her voice tight with anxiety. Yes. How is she? Danwoo watched as all the color drained from Akuna's face. What do you mean her fever won't go down? How high is it? A pause. 39.5? That's... She needs to go to the hospital, now. Another pause. Akuna's breathing was getting faster. I don't care what it costs. Take her to Seoul Central. I'm coming right now. She hung up and grabbed her bag with shaking hands. I have to go. My daughter? She's sick. Really sick. I have to. She took 2 steps toward the elevator and stumbled. Danwoo caught her before she hit the ground. Whoa! When's the last time you ate? I don't know. Yesterday. I have to get to the hospital. You're not going anywhere like this. You can barely stand. My daughter needs me. And she needs you conscious. Sit down for 1 second. He guided her to a chair in the break room. Akuna sat, but she was vibrating with panic, her leg bouncing frantically. I have to go. I'm coming with you. She looked up at him. What? You're in no condition to go alone. Come on. I can take a taxi. So can we. Together. Let's go. He pulled her to her feet and guided her toward the elevator. She was too panicked to argue. They took a taxi to Seoul Central Hospital. The entire ride. Akuna stared out the window, her hands gripping her phone so hard her knuckles were white. "She's going to be okay," Danwoo said. "You don't know that. Kids are tough. They bounce back. She has a heart condition." Akuna's voice cracked. "She was born with it. Ventricular septal defect. There's a hole in her heart." Danwoo went very still. The doctors said she needs surgery, but it costs. Akuna's voice broke. 40 million won. I've been saving for 3 years. I have 8 million. I need 32 million more. 40 million won. About $32,000. A fortune for someone making Akuna's salary. Pocket change for Danwoo. "And now she's sick," Akuna continued, her voice barely a whisper. "High fever, difficulty breathing. If the infection spreads to her heart." She couldn't finish the sentence. Danwoo reached over and took her hand. It was an instinct, something he did without thinking. Akuna looked down at their joined hands, surprised, but she didn't pull away. "She's going to be okay," he said again. "We'll make sure of it." "We?" He realized his mistake too late. "I mean, you'll make sure of it. You're her mother. You'll do whatever it takes." Akuna nodded, tears streaming down her face. She didn't let go of his hand for the rest of the ride. Seoul Central Hospital's emergency room was chaos, but Akuna pushed through the crowd like a woman possessed. Danwoo right behind her. Mrs. No-Yul was in the waiting area, holding Somnazu. The little girl was wrapped in a blanket, her face flushed with fever, her breathing labored. "Mama," she whimpered when she saw Akuna. Akuna took her immediately, holding her close. "I'm here, baby. Mama's here." A nurse approached. "Miss Amobi, we need to admit your daughter immediately. Her fever is very high, and with her pre-existing heart condition. Do it, whatever she needs. There's the matter of payment. I'll figure it out. Just help her, please." The nurse looked uncomfortable. "I need at least a deposit. 5 million won for emergency admission." Akuna's face went white. "I don't have that right now, but I can get it. I can call someone." "I'm sorry. Without a deposit, I can't admit her to the cardiac unit. I can only provide basic emergency care." "Basic care won't be enough if her heart." "I understand, but hospital policy. She's 2 years old." Danwoo stepped forward. "I'll cover it." Both women turned to stare at him. "What?" Akuna said. "The deposit. I'll pay it." "You don't have that kind of money, huh? You're a cleaner. I have savings. From before." He pulled out his wallet, the old worn one he carried for his cover. "Let me help. I can't accept. Your daughter needs care. Right now. We'll figure out the details later." Akuna looked at Somnazu, who was struggling to breathe. Then back at Danwoo. "I'll pay you back. Everyone, I promise." "I know you will." He turned to the nurse. "Where do I pay?" 20 minutes later, after Danwoo had made a call to his accountant to wire money to a personal account he could access without raising suspicion, Somnazu was admitted. They took her to the cardiac unit, ran tests, started IV antibiotics, put her on oxygen. Akuna sat beside the hospital bed, holding Somnazu's small hand, refusing to let go. Danwoo stood by the door, watching. A doctor came in. Dr. Kim, according to his name tag. "Miss Amobi, we've stabilized your daughter for now. The infection is serious, but treatable. However, given her heart condition, I'm concerned about long-term complications." "What kind of complications?" "The infection is putting strain on her heart. The VSD, the hole in her heart, makes her more vulnerable. She needs surgery soon, within the next few months, ideally. I'm saving for it. I just need more time. I understand money is a concern, but Somnazu's condition is deteriorating. The longer we wait, the more dangerous the surgery becomes. Akuna's hands were shaking. How long does she have? If we can keep infections under control, maybe a year, but that's optimistic. Another serious infection like this could be fatal. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Fatal. Akuna looked at her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, doctor," she whispered. When he left, she put her head down on the bed and sobbed. Quietly, trying not to wake Somnazu, but her whole body shook with the force of her grief. Danwoo stood there, feeling like an intruder. This was private, personal. He should leave, but he couldn't make himself move. Instead, he walked over and put a hand on Akuna's shoulder. She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. "I'm going to lose her," she whispered. "I can't save enough money in time. I'm going to lose my daughter." "No, you're not. You heard the doctor. You're going to fight. You're going to do whatever it takes. That's what mothers do. What if whatever I do isn't enough?" Danwoo knelt down beside her chair so they were eye level. "Then you find help. You ask for help. You don't give up." Akuna looked at him, something shifting in her expression. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because everyone deserves kindness. You don't even know me. I know enough." They stared at each other for a long moment, and Danwoo felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd kept locked away since Hatesal died. The ability to care about someone other than himself. He stood up quickly, breaking the moment. "I'll get you some coffee. You should eat something too." "I'm not hungry. You need to keep your strength up. For her." Akuna nodded reluctantly. Danwoo left the room and pulled out his phone, called his accountant. "I need you to pay a hospital bill. Seoul Central Hospital. Patient name, Amobi Somnazu. Pay everything. All current charges, and authorize full treatment for her heart condition. Whatever the doctors recommend." "Sir, that could be..." "I don't care what it costs. Pay it, and make sure it's anonymous. The hospital can tell the mother that a donor covered it, but under no circumstances can they reveal my name." "Understood. I'll handle it immediately. One more thing. I want the best pediatric cardiac surgeon in Korea on her case. Whoever that is, hire them. Pay whatever they ask." "Right away, sir." Danwoo hung up and leaned against the wall. What was he doing? This wasn't part of the investigation. This wasn't about finding Haitsal's killer. This was personal. He was getting involved in Akuna's life, in a way that had nothing to do with the necklace. It was stupid, reckless. But when he thought about that little girl struggling to breathe, when he thought about Akuna crying because she couldn't save her daughter, he couldn't walk away. Not this time. He brought Akuna coffee and a sandwich. She picked at the food, but didn't eat much. Around midnight, Somnazu's fever finally started to come down. She opened her eyes, groggy and confused. "Mama, I'm here, baby. I'm right here." Somnazu looked around the hospital room, taking in the machines and the IV. Then her eyes landed on Danwoo, who was sitting in the corner. "Mr. CEO, she said, her voice weak but delighted. Danwoo smiled. "Hey, little one. How are you feeling?" "Tired. And my chest hurts." "The doctors are going to make you feel better. You just need to rest." "Are you here to visit me?" "Yeah. Your mama was worried about you, so I came to make sure you're okay." Somnazu smiled. Then she looked at her mother. "Mama, is Mr. CEO your friend?" Akuna glanced at Danwoo, something unreadable in her expression. "Yes, baby. He's my friend." "Good. I like him." She closed her eyes and drifted back to sleep. Akuna looked at Danwoo. "Mr. CEO?" she asked quietly. "It's a nickname she gave me. I don't know why. She has good instincts about people." "Is that a compliment? Don't let it go to your head." But there was a softness in her voice that hadn't been there before. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Akuna said, "Thank you for the deposit, for being here. I don't know how I'm going to pay you back, but I will. We'll figure it out." "Why are you helping me? You barely know me." Danwoo thought about telling her the truth, about Haetsal, about the investigation, about who he really was. But he couldn't. Not yet. "Because someone helped me once when I needed it," he said instead, "and I never got the chance to pay them back. So maybe this is how I do it, by helping someone else." Akuna nodded slowly. "Well, thank you. You're welcome." Around 2 a.m., a nurse came in. "Miss Amobi, the billing department asked me to give you this." She handed Akuna an envelope. Akuna opened it, her hands shaking. It was a receipt. Total charges. 01 paid in full by anonymous donor. Akuna stared at it, her eyes wide. What? How is this possible? A benefactor contacted the hospital an hour ago. The nurse explained. They paid all of your daughter's medical bills, past, present, and future, including authorization for the heart surgery, whenever the doctors recommend it. Akuna looked like she might faint. Who did this? They requested to remain anonymous. I'm sorry, that's all I can tell you. The nurse left. Akuna sat there, holding the receipt with trembling hands. Someone paid for everything, she whispered. Someone paid for Somnazu's surgery. She started crying again, but this time, they were tears of relief. Danwoo watched her, feeling something warm and uncomfortable in his chest. He'd done this. He'd saved Somnazu's life. And for the first time in 2 months, since Haetsal died, he felt like he'd done something good, something that mattered. Akuna looked at him. Do you think, could it have been you? His heart stopped. What? The anonymous donor. You were the only one here. You said you had savings. It wasn't me. He lied. I paid the deposit. That's all I could afford. Akuna nodded, but she didn't look entirely convinced. Well, whoever it was, they saved my daughter's life. They did. She wiped her eyes and looked back at Somnazu, who was sleeping peacefully now. I don't know how to feel, Akuna said quietly. Grateful, suspicious, confused. Why would someone do this for us? Maybe they just wanted to help. Nobody helps without wanting something in return. Some people do. Akuna looked at him, and for a long moment, they just stared at each other, something passing between them, something neither of them could name. Danwoo broke eye contact first. You should get some rest. I'll stay here. Keep an eye on Somnazu. You don't have to. I want to. Akuna hesitated. Then she nodded. She leaned back in the uncomfortable hospital chair and closed her eyes. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled her under. Danwoo sat there, watching both of them sleep. Akuna and Somnazu. 2 people he'd come here to investigate. 2 people who were now somehow tangled up in his life in ways he hadn't anticipated. He pulled out his phone and checked his messages. One from his security team. Lab results will be ready by tomorrow evening. We'll have DNA and fingerprint analysis. Tomorrow he'd know who killed Haetzel. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight, he sat in a hospital room with a sick child and her exhausted mother. And for the first time since this nightmare began, he felt something other than rage. He felt hope. Chapter 6. Dan-woo stayed at the hospital all night. He told himself it was because Akuna needed support, because Somnazu was sick, and Akuna was exhausted, and someone should be there. But the truth was simpler and more complicated. He didn't want to leave. Around 4 a.m., Akuna woke up, her neck stiff from sleeping in the uncomfortable hospital chair. She looked at Somnazu first, still sleeping peacefully, fever down, breathing steady. Then she looked at Dan-woo, who was sitting in the corner, watching them both. "You're still here." "I said I'd stay. It's been 7 hours." "I know." She rubbed her neck, wincing. "You should go home. Get some rest." "So should you." "I'm not leaving Somnazu." "Then I'm not leaving either." Akuna studied him in the dim hospital light. Something in her expression softened. "Why are you being so kind to us? Does there have to be a reason?" "In my experience, yes. People don't help without expecting something in return. Maybe I'm different. Maybe." She looked at her daughter. "Or maybe you're just lonely, and we're a distraction from whatever you're running from." The accuracy of that statement hit him hard. "Maybe both things can be true," he said quietly. Akuna looked at him for a long moment. "Thank you. For staying. For everything. You don't have to keep thanking me." "Yes, I do. You barely know us." "I'm starting to." Something passed between them. A current. Electric. Akuna looked away first, uncomfortable with the intensity. "I need coffee. Real coffee." "There's a cafe 2 blocks away. Will you come with me?" "I don't want to go alone." "Yeah, of course." They left the hospital as the sun was rising, painting Seoul in shades of gold and pink. The cafe was small and warm, mostly empty, except for a few early morning workers. They ordered coffee and sat by the window. For a while, they didn't talk, just sat there, watching the city wake up. Then Akuna said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "The person you lost. Were you in love with her?" Dan-woo was quiet for a moment. "Yes." "Do you still love her?" He thought about it. Really thought about it. "I love who she was. What we had. But she's gone, and I can't keep living in a memory. That's very mature. Or very broken. I can't tell anymore." Akuna smiled sadly. "I know that feeling. What about you? Somnazu's father. Did you love him?" Her expression hardened. "I thought I did. Turns out I was just young and desperate for someone to want me. What happened? He promised me the world. A future. A family." She took a sip of coffee. "Then I got pregnant and he disappeared. Turns out he was married. I was just a mistake he didn't want to deal with. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I got Somnazu out of it. She's worth more than 1,000 of him. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her." Akuna looked out the window. "She's the only good thing I've ever done. The only thing I haven't ruined." "I don't believe that. You don't know me. Then tell me. Help me know you." She looked at him, something vulnerable in her eyes. "What if you don't like what you find?" "I'll take that risk." They stared at each other. The air between them felt heavy, charged. Akuna looked away, breaking the moment. "We should get back." But neither of them moved. They walked back slowly, neither wanting the moment to end. The sun was fully up now, the streets getting busier. "Bit garum," Akuna said as they reached the hospital. I need to tell you something. What? She stopped walking, turned to face him. You're a good person, better than most people I've met, and I don't want you to get hurt because of me. What does that mean? It means my life is complicated, messy, and anyone who gets close to me ends up hurt. I'm not afraid of complicated. You should be. Why? Because I'm not who you think I am. Then who are you? She opened her mouth, closed it, struggled with something. Never mind. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Before she could respond, a nurse came running out. Miss Amobi, your daughter is awake and asking for you. They rushed back to Somnazu's room. The little girl was sitting up in bed, looking much better. Mama! She reached out her arms. Akuna hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. Hey baby, how do you feel? Better. My chest doesn't hurt anymore. That's good. That's so good. Somnazu looked past her mother. Mr. CEO, you came to visit me. Danwoo smiled. Of course I did. I wanted to make sure you're okay. I'm okay now. The doctors gave me medicine. Good. You scared your mama pretty badly. Sorry, Mama. Akuna kissed her forehead. Don't be sorry, baby. Just get better. The doctor came in to examine Somnazu. Miss Amobi, I have good news. The infection is responding well to treatment. We'll keep her one more day for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much. After the doctor left, Akuna looked at Danwoo. I need to call work. Tell them I'm not coming in. I'll call too. You don't have to. I'm not leaving until I know Somnazu's okay. Bitgaram, I'm staying. She looked like she wanted to argue, but instead, she just nodded. Thank you. Around noon, Somnazu fell back asleep. Akuna sat beside the bed, watching her daughter breathe. Danwoo stood by the window. You must be exhausted, Akuna said. You haven't slept. Neither have you. I'm used to it. You're not. I'm fine. Akuna stood up and stretched. I need to move. Walk around. I'm going stir-crazy in this room. Want company? Yeah. They left Somnazu with a nurse and walked down to the hospital gardens, a small green space on the second floor, mostly empty this time of day. They sat on a bench overlooking the city. This is nice, Akuna said. Quiet. Yeah. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Akuna said, Can I tell you something? Always. When I first came to Korea, I thought everything would be different. Better. I thought I could start over. Be someone new. And I realized you can't outrun yourself. Your mistakes follow you no matter where you go. What mistakes are you running from? She looked at him. If I told you, you'd look at me differently. Try me. I hurt someone who trusted me, and I can never take it back. We all have regrets. This is more than regret. This is something I'll carry forever. Does it have to do with Somnazu's father? No. Someone else. Someone I cared about. Her voice cracked. Someone who died because of me. Danwoo went very still. What do you mean, died because of you? I mean, I made choices that got someone killed, and I have to live with that every day. Tears were streaming down her face now. Danwoo reached out and took her hand. Akuna, I don't deserve your kindness. I don't deserve any of this. Yes, you do. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He pulled her closer, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him, crying quietly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. For what? For everything. For being broken. for dragging you into my mess. You didn't drag me into anything. I chose to be here. Why? Because I care about you. She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. You shouldn't. Too late. They stared at each other, and suddenly, the air between them changed, became heavy, thick with something unspoken. Kdrama, Akuna, They spoke at the same time. Stopped. Danwoo's hand came up to her face, wiping away her tears. His thumb brushed her cheek. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing. This is a bad idea, she whispered. I know. We barely know each other. I know. I'm a mess. I don't care. She opened her eyes and looked at him. And then she closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid the other would pull away. But then something broke. Some wall they'd both been holding up. Akuna's hands came up to his neck, pulling him closer. Danwoo's arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her slightly. The kiss deepened, desperate, hungry, like they were both drowning. And this was air. Danwoo had kissed Hatsal hundreds of times, but this was different. This felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff at the same time. This felt like everything. When they finally pulled apart, she stared right into his eyes. That was a mistake, she finished. That was a mistake. Yeah, but neither of them moved. We can't do this, Akuna said. I know. I have some Nazu, and you have your life, and we work together. And Akuna, what? Stop talking. He kissed her again, longer this time, deeper, until they were both dizzy with it. When they broke apart this time, Akuna stepped back. We need to stop. I know. I'm serious. This can't happen. Why not? Because. She ran her hands through her hair, frustrated. Because you're a good person, and I'm not. Because you deserve better. Because I'm going to hurt you. What if I don't care? You should care. But I don't. She looked at him, something desperate in her eyes. Kdrama, please. Don't make this harder than it already is. Make what harder? Walking away from you. Then don't walk away. I have to. Why? Because if I don't, you'll get hurt. And I can't. I can't carry that. Not again. She turned and walked back toward the hospital. Danwoo stood there, his heart pounding. What just happened? He'd kissed her. He'd kissed Akuna. And it had felt right in a way nothing had felt right since Hatsal died. No, more than right. It felt like the first honest thing he'd done in months. They didn't talk about the kiss. Back in Somnazu's room, they sat in awkward silence. Akuna focused on her daughter. Danwoo stared at his phone, not really seeing it. The tension was unbearable. Finally, around 3 p.m., Akuna said, "You should go home. Get some rest." "Are you trying to get rid of me?" "I'm trying to give you an out." "What if I don't want an out?" Kdrama, what happened in the garden was a mistake. We already established that. What if I don't think it was a mistake? She looked at him, her eyes wide. Don't what? Don't say things you don't mean. I mean every word. You don't even know me. Then let me know you. Let me. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. His head of security. He needed to take this. "I'm sorry. I have to." "Go ahead." He stepped into the hallway and answered. "This better be important." "Sir, we have the lab results from the items found near Miss Min's apartment." Danwoo's pulse quickened. "And DNA analysis came back. We found 2 distinct DNA profiles on the scarf and earring. Who? The first belongs to a man named Choi Min-seok. He works for your uncle. Haeryum Junwoo, part of his personal security team. Danwoo's blood ran cold. My uncle's man. Yes, sir. And there's more. What? The second DNA profile. It's a match for Akuna Amobi. The world stopped. What did you just say? Akuna Amobi, sir. Her DNA was found on both items. The scarf and earring that belonged to Miss Min. That's impossible. We ran the test 3 times, sir. It's definitive. Danwoo couldn't breathe. How would her DNA be on Hatesel's things? We pulled surveillance footage to find out. Sir, they knew each other. What? Miss Min and Miss Amobi. We found footage of them together, on a street in Itaewon, 3 months before Miss Min's death. Danwoo's legs nearly gave out. Send me the footage. Already done, sir. Danwoo pulled up his phone with shaking hands. The video loaded. Street surveillance. Grainy, but clear enough. Haetsal and Akuna, standing on a street corner, talking. There's more, sir. What else? His voice was barely a whisper. We found another photo, from 2 weeks before Miss Min's death. The next image loaded, and Danwoo's heart shattered into pieces. Akuna, kissing a Korean man, passionate, intimate, like lovers. Who is that? Choi Min-seok, sir. The same man whose DNA we found on Miss Min's belongings. The same man who works for your uncle. Danwoo stared at the photo, at Akuna's hands in the man's hair, and their bodies pressed together. When was this taken? 2 weeks before Miss Min died. Where is Choi Min-seok now? We don't know. He disappeared 3 days ago. We're searching for him. Danwoo couldn't speak, couldn't think. Everything was crashing down around him. Sir, there's one more thing. Surveillance shows Choi Min-seok entering Miss Min's apartment building on the night she died. He was there. The phone nearly slipped from Danwoo's hand. Akuna knew Haetsal. Akuna's DNA was on Haetsal's belongings. Akuna was kissing the man who'd been in Haetsal's building the night she died. The man who worked for his uncle. Sir, what are your orders? Find Choi Min-seok and put surveillance on Akuna Amobi. I want to know every move she makes. Understood. Danwoo hung up. He stood in the hospital hallway, staring at the photos on his phone. Less than an hour ago, Akuna had kissed him, with tears in her eyes, telling him someone had died because of her. I hurt someone who trusted me. Someone died because of me. She'd been trying to confess, and he'd been too blind to see it, too desperate to believe she was good, too in love to see the truth. He looked back towards Samnazu's hospital room. Akuna was sitting beside the bed, holding her daughter's hand. She looked like an innocent mother, tired, worried, loving. But was any of it real? Or had she been playing him from the start, using her daughter, using her vulnerability, using that kiss, all to keep him from discovering the truth? Danwoo's chest tightened. He'd fallen in love with her, with Akuna. Somewhere between the late-night shifts and shared meals and that desperate kiss in the garden, he'd fallen completely. He'd imagined a future with her, with them, a family. But it had all been a lie. She'd known Haetsal. She was connected to the man who killed her. Her DNA was at the scene, and she'd kissed Danwoo to keep him blind. He turned and walked toward the elevator, away from her, away from the woman he'd loved, away from the lie he'd almost believed. The elevator doors closed. Danwoo leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. He'd been played. He'd fallen for the woman who helped kill his fiancée. And now He had to decide what to do about it. To be continued. Did Akuna destroy the man who saved her daughter? Or is she drowning in a nightmare she can't escape? If you're feeling everything right now, rage, heartbreak, hope, comment below. Part 2 will give you the answers you're aching for.